I'm Peter Trelawney. On this week's installment of 10 Minutes, we explore the cross-cultural effects of studying abroad with students. Our team of experts on cross-cultural communications sat down with a student of American University named Stephanie, who studied abroad in Argentina.
Every culture has their own traditions and behaviors that we might attribute to personality. Every culture has their own different codes and modifiers when communicating with one another as well. And what works for us might not work for other cultures, and they might even be considered taboos. And many students find it difficult when adjusting because they might unintentionally insult one of their friends while traveling or studying abroad. What is a single behavior that you notice people around you doing because of their culture that you initially thought of as odd? Did you ever commit any cultural taboos? Did you get a reaction from around you, or did you have to fix it?
So something that I noticed that I thought was strange at first was when I was on the buses. Whenever we passed by a church or anything, like people would do the sign of Christ and then like point up to the ceiling, and I would be like really confused because I was like, "What are you doing?" But they're a very religious culture. They're very into, like, I think that 99% of the culture is Christian, so it was very different to see like crosses everywhere and to see everyone doing the sign of God. But after a while, I got used to it, and some of my friends got into it too, but I never did because I don't identify as a Christian. And then, did I ever commit any cultural taboos? There was a time in the very beginning when I got to Argentina, and I didn't know what Los Desaparecidos were. And I was in a group of people, and I asked, like, "Oh, what are Los Desaparecidos?" And everyone kind of looked at me like, "We don't talk about that." And so I took one of my Argentine friends aside later that day, and I asked what it was. And it was basically a genocide during the military dictatorship in the 80s. And I looked it up online, and it was fine, but at the time it was definitely something that I shouldn't have talked about.
Hi, I'm Sam. My area of expertise is in identity and the way identity changes based on experience. So I'm here with Steph, who went to Argentina. Identity is how we classify ourselves internally and how we frame ourselves in terms of interpersonal interaction. As central as identity can be to a person, it's fundamentally shifted by an intercultural experience like studying abroad. Identity is comprised of elements of psychology, interaction with others, and culture. Because it is complex and dynamic, identity is often overlooked by people who have not studied intercultural relations or have had long-term intercultural experience like living in a foreign country. Do you feel that you've brought elements of your host culture back to your home culture? And if you have, which elements?
I mean, I brought back some mates with me. So mate is like a drink that is typical to Argentine culture. And it's like tea basically, but I brought back 3 with me, and I use them regularly. And I feel like I've kind of brought back the Argentine mentality of time, I guess, because they kind of decide to do things whenever they want to. They show up to things an hour late, and like, not saying that, showing up an hour late to things is something that I do regularly, but like that kind of mentality of that there's not that much pressure on like work and all of your responsibilities is something that I brought back with me, I would say.
So like polychronic time where you're controlling time rather than it controls you.
Yeah.
Not into a schedule kind of thing. Okay. And then has your identity changed, the way you identify yourself changed at all? And if it has, how has that affected the way you interact with others?
I would say that studying abroad in Argentina definitely changed the way I identify myself. I mean, just as a woman in a Latin American country, the way that you are viewed and other people, and that you view yourself kind of shifts because of the machista culture. And I would say that it's definitely changed me as a person. I feel like I matured a little bit when I went abroad. Not 100% mature person, but whatever. But it definitely made me a stronger person. And I see myself a lot differently now than I did than before I went on.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Siboney, and I'm here with Stephanie, and she went to Argentina. And what I'm going to be talking about is culture shock. And culture shock is when someone goes into a new country or culture and they start to face the challenges of emerging into a new place with customs and traditions. And there's multiple stages of culture shock. When you first get to the place, it's exciting and new. And after you're there a while, it can be stressful trying to cope with the differences from where you're from. And I'm going to ask Steph a few questions about her experience going to Argentina. And one of our questions is, compare yourself now before you went abroad and then compare yourself now to before you went abroad and what changes you underwent on your journey.
So when I went abroad, it was the first time I was living on my own in an apartment. It was the first time that I really had to take care of myself and feed myself. And it was, a new language and new people. And, when I got there, it was really exciting. And, all we wanted to do was visit, explore the nightlife and all of the, cultural activities that we could do, museums and whatever. But after the first 2 months, we actually had to be speaking Spanish all the time in our classes and with, our new friends, and it was, it was difficult. But then towards the end, it was we were really living there, and we had kind of a family, and it was great. But definitely had some culture shock. But I would say the reverse culture shock was worse.
Okay, so what coping mechanisms did you use when you felt you were facing culture shock?
I tried to get out of my apartment as much as I could because I know that sitting at home and watching Netflix is really great, but also it, can be really depressing. So we would try to do as much things as we could together. We would try to, get out and explore the city, but it was really hard.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
So ethno-relativity deals with empathy. It deals with a person's ability to truly understand the experiences of a member of a different culture with regards to cultural differences and cultural norms. A study abroad experience is a fantastic way to understand the everyday lives of members of a different culture and to become more culturally adaptive. So my question to you, Steph, is this. Do you feel more culturally adaptive as a result of your study abroad experience? Do you feel like you're more able to understand the cultural differences with members of different cultures now?
I would say yes and no, because when I went to Argentina, I had studied abroad once before for a couple months in Spain, and I tried to go into it with as open mind as possible. But there's still things that you can never really account for unless you experience it firsthand. And people can tell you Latin America is very machista culture, but you're not going to really understand what that means until you go there and experience it yourself. So I'd say yes, because going in with an open mind is really important, but also there's some things that you can just never really understand until you go and figure it out for yourself.
Great. And what specific elements of Argentinian culture did you notice or stuck out to you?
I would say that in Argentina, they put a lot more emphasis on family and doing things that they enjoy, rather than putting all the emphasis on work and school. And yes, those are very important things to them, but I feel in America, especially, we put a huge emphasis on work and school are the most important things, and everything else comes second. And we have to get everything done on time, and and I feel in Argentina that's something that I really appreciate about the culture.
All right, thank you.
There are multiple effects of studying abroad on a student. As our experts have discussed tonight, these effects may vary, but students must be aware of these effects before they do decide to undergo the cross-cultural experience. I'm Peter Chaloni, and our 10 minutes are up.